AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello and welcome back to the WRRAP, a weekend where 4 professional sides did really well, but to be honest, we're going to have to talk a lot about the off-field matters. But before we get into all the horrible things, how's the panel done today? We are joined, as always, by Hattie, Nick and Dan. How are we doing, folks?
Good evening.
Yeah.
That well, great. This is going to be a very interesting podcast to go through.
Well, I was expecting everyone else to jump in with a good evening then as well, but yeah, no, I'm good. Thanks, yourself.
Miserable as hell.
I've got a broken printer, a broken website, and a ruined carpet, but it's wrap time.
Yay! And if that isn't a fantastic metaphor for Welsh Rugby, I don't know what is. So let's start off. We'll get rid of. I'm sure I know exactly why you're all here listening to us, and it's to hear the exciting announcement that our long lost beloved feature, Drink of the Week, will be making an appearance in the Six Nations. But we'll tell you more about that next week. Anyway, moving on, Nick. A few items on the news deck to stick clear up.
Yeah, we obviously got one main item, but there are some other things as well. The British and Irish Lions have announced a landmark first women's tour to New Zealand. They'll be out of test fixtures and 3 matches against New Zealand in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch. And these will be played in September 2027, which I believe is a gap in the annual calendar for women's rugby.
Yeah, so it will replace, so basically there won't be WXV next year. Instead, you'll have the British and Irish Lions, and then other nations will have to sort themselves out.
Thank you, Hattie.
Sorry, Nick, can I just ask a question on that whilst we're on the topic? And I have been looking, I was wondering, is the tour going to be done on a quota basis? Does anyone know? Or is it,
No.
Best person for the job?
I think it's going to be best person for the job, but we really don't know. So the actual tour was announced like a really long time ago now. But they didn't say what the dates were or what the actual makeup of it was. So it's this week really that we've had the dates and everything, and the locations, etc. But yeah, we have no clue who. There's been a lot of people saying that it's going to be E for Wafers, Red Roses, which is obviously E for Wafer from Ireland plus the Red Roses. I don't know. I personally think it'll actually be a bit more of a diverse range, but I think it depends on who the coach is. If it's John Mitchell, then I think it'll be E for Wafers, Red Roses. But if it's anybody else, I think it'll be a more generous mix.
Okay, sticking with the British and Irish Lions and Wales, fullback Liam Williams has retired. Now, I'm not sure about this, and perhaps you guys can help me. I'm not sure if he's retired from rugby or he's retired from international rugby.
It's just international.
International.
Right, okay. The 34-year-old, 93 caps and 21 tries for Wales. And let's be honest, his injury issues over the last few years have probably clouded what was a very, very good career. He had 2 Six Nations titles, including 1 Grand Slam. He went on 2 Lions tours, and certainly in 2017 in New Zealand, and he went to 2021 to South Africa, but certainly going back to New Zealand, he's one of the star players. So thank you, Liam, for everything you've given to Welsh Rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd echo that. I think he's been a good servant. 90-odd Test caps is an amazing feat. The reality is, I think, for anyone that's employed him over the last, 3, 4, maybe even 5 seasons, it's been a struggle for him, hasn't it, in terms of injuries? I know he's at Newcastle at the moment. Has he featured?
I think he's played 1 game or 2 games, something like that.
I think there's 1 game and got injured.
Yeah.
There you go. So I would suggest, we all know why Newcastle signed him. I think it's because they wanted to bolster the ranks, and he was a free agent, I think, at the time, or thereabouts. So I would suggest probably reading between the lines that this is likely to be his last contract, I would have thought, because in reality, with his injury profile and age profile, it's probably not a good pickup for a pro team. So especially with the wage demands that he'll probably, or that his agent will probably bring along with it. So yeah, good luck to him. Thanks for the memories. You're right. There was that 1 score, I think, in one of the games out in New Zealand. It was a Test match, I think. It was when he sort of fielded the ball in the backfield, beat a couple of players, and was it Sean O'Brien that went over in the
Sean O'Brien.
Sean O'Brien try. I think it was him and Foxy linked. Speaking of another player who injuries ruined it last half of their career.
Quality score. So he'll be fondly remembered. There's no doubt about that.
Ospreys have announced that well, I don't think it's the Ospreys actually, it's more Grenoble, have announced that James Fender will lead the region at the end of the season. It was widely reported he was close to signing to the club last season, and he'll link up obviously with former Osprey and Dragons outside half, Sam Davis. And as the Osprey guys had discussed, he's one of the many soon to be out of contract players at the Ospreys, whose contracts were up this year. So I guess we're probably, when we go on to talk about this, he won't be the last either. And got to be honest with you, if you have an offer elsewhere and you're an Osprey player, why wouldn't you move on? Who can blame them? Scarlets today have announced that Rugby Gogledd Cymru and former player outside half Billy McBride will rejoin the Scarlets on loan this week ahead of their match against Benetton, because obviously they're going to have problems outside half with Costello and Hawkins have joined up with the Welsh squad today in the Vale and are unlikely to be available for the Scarlets in their match in Benetton. And the final bit of news I've got, and I'm happy for him, is that it's been confirmed that ITV will broadcast the 2026 and 2028 editions of this newfangled Rugby Nations Championship that the Welsh Rugby Union and its representatives are very excited about. They'll also show the 2027 Summer Nations Series and the 2029 Autumn Nations Series. And I got to be honest with you, I think it's all probably related to the wider financial picture around World Rugby and certainly around the Welsh Rugby Union's financial situation. And I guess we get back to the same question, how many teams Welsh Rugby Union can afford? And I just want to make a point around this, and that we've talked about before. There's still no published accounts for the Welsh Rugby Union. And given that Richard Coddy-Keyword at the AGM gave a summary of what was likely to be in those accounts, why haven't we had those? Why isn't there transparency? How can we as fans and supporters of Welsh Rugby scrutinise those decisions being made on our behalf? But that's my point of view, so happy if anybody else wants to chip in there.
I think the transparency overall has been poor. I think you're spot on in terms of the level of finances. No one can come up with any sort of level of detail around published accounts or anything like that. I don't think there's been any published accounts. Is that right at the moment? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Not as yet, Dan.
Not as yet. So therefore, how can we, the stakeholders, that's anyone looking from the outside in, so I suppose we'd be on about players, supporters, staff, members of the rugby club, member clubs of the union. Nobody knows in theory, what the financial position of the union is, which I think is very important for everyone to remember, is a governing body, not a business. That's a big thing. The union is here to support rugby in Wales, not to do anything else other than that, I don't think. And whilst I fully understand that it does need to be run like a business to a certain point, if it was a private limited company, then I fully understand why there was a limited level of transparency, because quite frankly, it would be nobody's business, but it's not. It's a governing body, and therefore we should all be privy to the financial position of the union, which ultimately is the leadership and governance vehicle for the game, for our national game. So we've banged on about this before as well, Nick. Like, what's the finance package for the new sponsorship deal at the stadium? No one knows. Nothing's been said. We don't
announced it yet. You think they'd have announced that a week, 2 weeks before the first game?
But exactly, is it have the Principality triggered some extension or something, which means that we've got to wait a little bit longer? Because again, I'll nail my colours to the mast on this one. For me, anything less than a Twickenham style deal is not acceptable. And people will come back at me on that and go, well, Twickenham's in London. Yeah, it is, but it only hosts rugby. Whereas the Principality hosts rugby, football, monster trucks, wrestling, gig after gig after gig throughout the summer. I got no doubt there'll be more there, and whatever else it hosts. So therefore, it should be subject. Let's be honest. Cardiff's a pretty good city itself, so it should be subject to such a deal. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Nick. I don't know what you think, Hattie.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I've said it before, but for me, because they drop feed stuff and like they'll come out and like Rich Collier-Keywood will say this little piece of information, they actually make it harder for themselves, because if they hadn't said anything, then they wouldn't put the idea in some people's heads and it would get forgotten about, apart from a very, very small group of people who'd be like, I want to see the accounts. But because they say these little small bits of information in an act to seem transparent, it just highlights the fact that they're not transparent.
Yeah.
So, like, they say little things like this, and because I don't believe anything that comes out of any of their mouths, I instantly want the evidence, because I just don't believe them.
Yeah, because my understanding was, and again, I stand to be corrected here, is that actually, when we'll go into the MP select committee thing a little bit later on, but my understanding is that Collier-Keywood said that there was enough money for 4 teams.
Yeah, he definitely said that, Dan.
So that's on record.
Yeah.
So why are we going to 3?
Because they would have to admit that this whole exercise is a waste of time. I mean, the thing that that frustrates me is because everyone always gets confused. The money that the regions get from WRU isn't supposed to be like a grant or anything like that. It's supposed to be payment for 1, academies, running the academies, and 2, player release. And getting the players. I mean, this was one of the big issues with COVID was the WRU didn't pay the release fees to the players so that they could have them for these extended times in camp. And then not only did they not pay, but then borrowed money to put the debt on the process. I'm just like, well, and if this money is for running academies, right? If you're going to take the national academy, take that money out of the budget, and then say, this is what we can afford to give you in your player release, or you say, if you do a negotiation, you say, right, for X number of players, we pay, I don't know, a percentage of their salary based on their time in camp. Go through that. And then say, benefactors, you might have to pay a bit more. And then that can, and then you say, people who own the clubs, you want a budget of £10 million, you've got to put the money into £10 million. And we're just paying for payments. Like that's the way they could have done it. And say, when they were saying, oh, we can't do equal funding anymore, because we're not going to give, say Scarlets only have 3 players, we're not going to give you the same as the Ospreys when they've got 12.
Yeah, but
that led to some problems with the Dragons in respect, but
yeah, but I've seen this online, right, a number of times where people are going, well, don't do it fairly. You do it almost like per player that's released, right? Rather than giving teams equal amounts for the player release stuff. And there's an argument for that. My counter to that would be, the recent squad that's been picked, there's only 2 Dragons in it, which I think is wholly unfair. I think they were.
We'll go on to that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my point. The fact that the reason why it should be fair and equitable amongst all 4 regions, the player release money, is because the decision to pick any given player is down to the head coach of the national team.
Yeah,
it's purely done on who he thinks is the right person at the time. It's got nothing to do with who's producing, necessarily the best players or what team is performing best necessarily at the moment. It's got to do with how they want to play the game, how they want to make up their squad to look like, and who they get on with best in terms of who they think is most coachable, good for the environment, and so on and so forth. That's why it needs to be equal across all 4 teams.
The thing is, I think.
Sorry,
this is where I think this is where it says if you say it's literally just purely compensation for players for wins, and you detach anything from playing budget, it's literally just similar to England. They have a certain amount of allocation depending on England internationals, or anyone who the RFU says is this is a potential player for Wales. So for example, someone like Angus, Angus Bryan, who are people who are in the conversation but don't make the squad. I know it still needs bias towards different things. But I've said if you say we are paying you for producing players, we've taken these players off. This money is there to cover an extra position in your squad. The only problem is you then have to do it retroactively, and it doesn't take much from you to go from Scarlets. So I think the year before they won the Pro 14, they didn't have many Welsh players in the squad, and all of a sudden half this team was in just over that one. So,
yeah, but you'd also have to take into account then what players I think are being released to Wales 20s duties.
Yeah.
I think you should. Yes, absolutely.
Because
I think anything where you're potentially weakening the squad.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's my own naivety with how we do that.
I see. Sorry, I was just going to say I can see both sides of it. I can see why it should be per sort of person, per player, and be fair that way. And I can also see it being equal by team, because if you think about it, it's a bit like the difference between, say, like a European style sports model or like an English style sports model of having relegation and promotion between leagues, and like a closed one in America where they have drafts and the worst team gets the first pick in the draft. So are you sort of trying to help the people that are at the bottom, or are you trying to almost punish them for it? Whereas actually, like, say, for example, if like the Dragons only had 2 and in previous years they've had kind of the least, well, actually, if they didn't have an equal amount of funding, they'd be at a disadvantage. And that's like, if you compare it to like Leinster are always at the top. They've always got the most players and they're always the best province out of those 4. And you would just end up creating something like that in Wales and just having a team that's got an unequal amount of funding.
I just said, and I don't want to repeat the same point, I suppose, but I think if for easy maths, if there was £1 million given to the union given from the union to the regions, that was the player pot for international release. I think it should be equally split because it's based on a judgment call, individual judgment calls, not on anything else than that. So at the moment, it's down to Steve Tandy and his coaching team to pick the squad, and it's who they think is best. You could end up, in theory, with no one from the Dragons. Next season, if Aaron Wainwright, we know is going to Leicester. So, could be just one from the Dragons. But, we'll all might be sat here in a little while when we talk about the squad now going, well, maybe we should have had 5 or 6 in and around the wider squad. But that's my opinion, your opinion, Nick's opinion, Steve Tandy's opinion is the only one that matters. And that's why I think
I very much doubted my opinion matters. But going back to your point around the Commons Select Committee, I thought the level of scrutiny was really poor. 1 or 2 of the MPs tried. Most of them had very, very limited understanding of the situation of Welsh rugby or rugby in general. But what was interesting, I think you made the point, Dan, which was a really good one, is that the refinancing situation, as I understand it, is not based on the number of teams. It's about the total outlay. And the Welsh Rugby Union made a big point of saying how fantastic we've renegotiated this plan. Great. And their interest prepayments will go down as a result of that, which is okay. That's okay. But I really think we've been taken for a ride, for a joke by the main players in the Welsh Rugby Union, by the board, executive board, and they're nameless people. I know who they are, but most people don't. And I think we're naive if we think under Colin Keywood that he mentioned, for instance, I'm going to just pick on him in particular. He mentioned that he's only employed 1 day a week, but unless I've misunderstood things, until the start of this month, he was taking on a lot of the additional duties that would have been taken on by the CEO, Abby Tini. But because of her illness, and that's sad, but he took on a lot more responsibility and was in much more. She's back in work now, and that's great for her. And she's back in full time. But he hasn't been 1 day a week unless the communication from the Welsh Rugby Union leading up to January 2026 was incorrect. So it's all a bloody mess.
And I think that's a good point as well, because Richard Collier-Keywood would have had suitable remuneration for performing effectively the chief executive's role, while Abby Tierney was effectively on the sick, and rightly so. She's off having treatment for cancer, and I think she's having full recovery, is my understanding. So, which is fantastic. And no one's questioning any of that leave. Your health is the most important thing going. So, but Collier Keywood would have surely picked up. He wasn't doing that for, to save the union a few quid, was he?
No.
I mean, what are you going to get done in 1 day? Because if you're off for a week and you come back for 1 day, that's like you're spending your entire day doing emails.
Yeah.
So what on earth does he do?
Well,
I'd love to know.
Maybe he's trying to make the point that he's only paid for a day a week, but he's actually doing a full-time role.
What a load of bollocks.
Oh, my heart bleeds for him. It must be so hard to live by on that amount of money.
And the thing is,
know his salary.
Does he have an assistant? Because is the assistant also getting paid? Because I bet there's so many levels of just nonsense.
Yeah, it was, and to go back to the select committee itself, it was tame. I thought the questioning was poor. It was they were asking the sort of questions that I think MPs want to be asked when they go on some sort of news show, like Question Time and Newsnight and so on and so forth. That they were just, it was all very nice. There was very little scrutiny. They clearly weren't across any sort of brief, I don't think, in terms of the difficulties in the rugby union. My understanding is the chair was the MP for Newport West, maybe Newport East. I don't stand to be correct.
West, I think it is, but I can't remember the name.
On my patch, didn't even know that the Dragons had signed a PRA.
Yeah.
This is if you're an MP, specifically with a regional HQ, if you like, i.e., I'm thinking Rodney Parade, in your on your patch. Surely you want to know about it.
Yeah.
The other MP that I think at the moment has been, what's the term I'm looking for? Whereby their silence is deafening is the and I don't want to butcher the surname.
Is it Antonazi?
Yeah, the ex-Welsh ladies rep.
Ex-international is an MP in Swansea, but is on the board at the Scarlets.
She's too busy tweeting transphobic material.
Right. Which is important, but it's still not the main remit for her job.
I mean, I personally wouldn't say it was important. I think it was a load of nonsense. But
okay, fine.
But her silence speaks absolutely volumes to me. Again, I think she's in one of the main Swansea wards, is my understanding, as an MP. So, anything to do with the Ospreys, people within her constituency would be directly affected with, and rightly, this is a major factor for them, and so it should be. And absolutely nothing.
I'm going to say something now as a North Walian. There was too much emphasis on the community game, and North Wales. And obviously, I want North Wales to have more emphasis, but the questioning was poor. And when they did ask a good question and Collie Keywood and Teeny didn't answer it, there was no follow up. If I'd have been in scrutiny and I've had the pleasure, if that's the right word, of being in those situations with politicians, they are trained to follow up. If you say something and you can't substantiate that by saying, I went to such and such a club, I went to such a thing, I've been to such and such a game, well, tell us which games you went to, tell us which club you went to. There was none of that at all. They were just allowed to get away with bland, uh, typical politicians' answers from non-politicians.
Although Abby Tierney does come from a civil service political background, that's why she's able to do it. She was exactly the same when she was questioned over the women's contracts like a year and a half ago, and the way she got away with it is that she's used to this kind of questioning. She gets away with it, and I have to be honest, I was not thinking that much was going to come out of this select committee, because I remember that the women's questioning, and the politicians at the end come out with these pre-rehearsed, pre-written statements by somebody that's actually done the research.
Exactly.
And the actual questioning is completely pointless and a waste of everybody's time, because nobody's actually held accountable. And it's just a load of bollocks, to be honest.
Yeah. The only good thing that came out of that meeting was the statement at the end, and as you quite rightly say, that was written for them.
Yeah, well, of course it was. Yeah, and I'd like to pick up on the questions about, or the amount of stuff that was asked about the community game, because I've seen a few people, and I know the boys on the Dragons Lair picked this up. First and foremost, I hate the term community game. We trained over with Merthyr 2 Thursdays ago. I mean, nothing community about those. I can tell you that there is community about them in terms of what they do within their community. You know, they got a great mini and junior section, but the first team, you know, that's a proper rugby team, right? It's coached by Ian Evans, who's the head coach there. It's a proper rugby team. You know, there's lots of people in those sort of top couple of divisions, especially down to probably Division 1, I would say, where community is probably not the right terminology. But for me, anything below the SRC can all be wrapped up in the pathway. It is all pathway stuff.
Yeah.
So you can bang on about having, you know, extra support in North Wales, or the Valley's not being excluded, and this, that, and the other community game, this, and, you know, grant funding for clubs. It can all be wrapped up under the pathway banner, because we need the clubs, because the clubs are the ones, because let's not forget, I don't think there's many in the SRC, and there's certainly obviously none in the regional game that have got youth systems, youth teams, under 16s, all the way down to mini and juniors. That's what the club system is doing. It is, at the moment, up until I think 15, when EPP comes into play. So what would that be, year 10? Certainly on the boys' side of things, year 10/11.
Year 11,
there or thereabouts. The Doer Shield now has gone to under 16s, where it was under 15s, I believe. Again, correct me in the comments but all the coaching prior to that is down to the clubs. There's no representative rugby. There's no county rugby. There's no district rugby as such. I think they're still holding on to the under 11s, but that's not what it used to be, the DC Thomas Cup. So it's all the community stuff can just be mopped up in the pathway. All the club game can be mopped up in the pathway, and then ring fence, SRC, and whatever the pro team setup's going to end up being like as the pro game, because the SRC's got to be right. It's effectively going to be the second teams of the pro teams, isn't it? You know, so that's got to be right. So there's no need to keep bleating on about funding for this and funding for that. It can all be mopped up in the pathway, and it has to be done correctly. I think the fact it's missing from schools is a disaster at the moment. My little boy's in year 10, at year 11. Christ, he is 11, 10, going on 11 in year 6.
He's probably the size of a year 10 or a year 11.
Yeah,
if he's your kid, yeah.
No, he follows his mummy down. He's a little duck, but yeah, he's they play no rugby in school at all. None, absolutely none. Go to football tournaments, playing football round robins, do all of this. Rugby gone. So we're losing out on people from that early age. No boys or girls playing rugby in schools at the moment. Certainly not in the cluster that I'm involved in. And don't forget, I coach in that community. So, yeah, I think it was overplayed. The hand on the community game was overplayed a little bit, and probably in towards the wrong sort of arena, because for me, it's all pathway stuff.
I just to wrap up on that, I did feel that the stuff about North Wales and including North Wales, it was almost like they'd copied and pasted what they would say about like funding for England and having to include the North and like renumerating the North, where it didn't really work because it didn't really make a lot of sense. Like I get why people say it, but if you actually understand rugby and rugby in Wales, you understand why it's a bit of a weird thing to keep bringing up. And if our
Yep.
North Walian agrees, then I think, you know.
Yeah, as I say, it played in. They didn't have to answer the difficult questions. It's exactly the type of questioning they wanted, because they could say, we're going to be doing this. The community game is going to get that. So we're going to be putting floodlights into this ground. We're going to be putting 4G into such and such a ground because of our terrible climate in January. They're all things that I can support and I have no problem with. But it got away from what the real issues in Welsh rugby are.
Yeah, I totally agree. And before we move on to the real nitty gritty of the Osprey saga, I've got one more thing for the quote unquote community game, right? Can we please lobby everyone involved in Welsh rugby to have January off, because we played on Saturday and it was the absolute dog's dinner of a rugby match. The weather for the last 4 weeks has been absolutely pants, right? I'm fed up of being wet. Let's just have January off, play the last 2 weeks of August, play early kickoffs when Wales are playing, and we can be done and dusted, because nobody enjoys watching 13 threes, 8 fives, 3 nils, or whatever it may be, is absolute pants.
The
And
washing machines wants to, they need to recover.
Honest to God, it was absolutely terrible. It was, but yeah, come on, let's get into it, Harley. Come on, tee us up for the next bit.
I mean, the only thing I was going to add to that comms debate is I don't know why people are surprised that Select Committee was wishy-washy. This is just what they are. I don't know if anyone's ever watched another one before, and it is the same. It's a couple of very strong, punchy statements, then some wishy-washy questions, then the hard questions are battered aside, and no one really delves in. That's it. One thing I did want to say is I thought for all the feedback I was hearing, I didn't watch it myself. A lot of this secondhand, but the supporters reps were all unanimously given a lot of kudos for how well they spoke, particularly Grant from the Erie, CF10's Lynn, based at Dan Hallett from Dragons. So I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I've had much interaction with this from Chris 16, but I was. Well done to them for representing their game. Just a little bit more on things. So we're not going to talk too much about the actual on-field stuff this week, because I think all the off-field stuff should. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the off-field thing, just want to say well done to everyone in both the Ospreys and Cardiff games who did the 11-minute talk, John. That was quite last minute, I think, between Ospreys Supporters Club and CF10 Trust. Basic thing. You guys want to keep doing that each week, please do. So just put your phone boxes on as soon as it hits the 11th minute, whether you're at the park, at Rodney Parade, Ruby Field, wherever. Just saying, I think some of the guys from Dragons are going to be some banners with "We stand with the Ospreys." So anything we can do, just to let WRU and Y11 know that we're not happy about this. Anyway, moving on, Nick, as you are our news guy, do you want to sort of just bundle up and summarize, pretty much a lot of the stuff that broke whilst we were on air last week?
Okay, obviously, since then, there's been quite a lot of media information being shared. And going back to where we were, and I can say this as an Osprey fan, and I'm sure you will agree with me, but happy to be challenged. The Ospreys are owned by a YLM Sports and Media. They're based in Singapore, and they're a business. They have a stake in other teams, including the Cheetahs in Bloemfontein, who coincidentally used to play in the forerunner of the URC, the Pro 14. And in the Welsh language is an idiom. It's called tu ôl i'r llenni, means behind the curtains. And I think what's happened is exactly that. A lot of things have happened behind the curtains, out of sight of us as Osprey fans. We don't know if Lance Bradley, the CEO, has been involved, but certainly Y11 reps have been involved in a number of probably virtual meetings with the Welsh Rugby Union CEO and the chairman. And I get the impression that the other members of the Osprey board, Roger Blythe and Rob Davis, who've been over the years and are long-standing, have been very been very supportive of the Ospreys, have not been involved. But it just seems all very murky at the moment. And the one person who I am very supportive of in all of this is somebody called Councillor Rob Stewart, who's a long-standing leader of Swansea Council. And he's come out quite strongly about what's been happening. I'm going to add another variable perhaps into this discussion, and I don't like to bring politics up, but there is a Senate election coming up, and every poll which is coming through sort of indicates two possible outcomes, and they're not usually hugely wrong. And we're either facing a reform-led administration, which God knows what that will entail, but the probably more likely is a Plaid Cymru radical-led, radical sort of politicians-led government. So for a Labour-dominated area like the Ospreys, with which includes Bridgend, Leith Port Talbot, and Swansea, I think it's probably going to mean they're going to have far less political influence and clout after the May elections. So I think that is important. I think it's what the Osprey Supporters Club, which you've referred to, has been, what they've done is important. And the opposition to the proposals, they're working closely with one of the politicians who has been quite verbose in his support of the Ospreys, is Torsten Bell. And it's very important now that we continue to work with the politicians, and very importantly the other supporters club, because this is not just about the Ospreys. I'm very grateful to Lynn and the CF10 support that they've offered, and to the Dragons as well, because I think we're correct in saying that no fan base in Wales are particularly happy about the situation, have any trust in the Welsh Rugby Union. And, quite understandably, Cardiff and adamant they don't want YLM as their new owners. The Dragons owners have been very, David Buttress in particular has been very clear that they have huge issues with the Welsh Rugby Union. So I think we need to go back to the fact that we need 4 teams in Wales. We don't currently have the quality of players, but if we can invest some more money, if we have transparency in the current financial situation, could more money still be put towards the development, which we all, I think, agree needs to have further work done on, but still keep the 4 teams. So, but with the Welsh Rugby Union, I naively, and I promise never to be so naive again, I thought with some new faces of the Welsh Rugby Union that we'd have some more clarity, more transparency, but it's the same old story in reality. We know the people involved, and they just have a very arrogant attitude, and I think that's typified by particularly white t-shirt man Richard Colley keyword. Richard, if you have any media training, stop giving car crash interviews saying that non-Welsh qualified players have added nothing to Welsh rugby. Just have some knowledge, show you have some knowledge, and just on a satirical please don't wear white. If you're going to wear a white t-shirt, please put it underneath a shirt and tie, or go for the complete casual look. But I have to say, on the response to the Ospreys, I am really disappointed YLM for their lack of communication. They've basically said nothing for 4 years, so at least I can say they're consistent. But our chief executive, Lance Bradley, is normally very active on social media, and it seems strange, given that all that's happening. given that the Dragons game is next Saturday, and then we have nearly a month when we have no games, could he not have taken leave perhaps in February? So, as I say, the only person I think of this, there are two people I think come out with some credibility. One is Mark Jones on behalf of the Ospreys staff, and the other person is Rob Stewart, leader of Swansea Council, and who is very supportive of the Ospreys. But I think we're facing a real prospect with no professional team playing in a hotbed of Welsh rugby with excellent university links. And Wales' second city is going to have no professional team. And they're going to use some technical terms. I think it's a real fucking shit show.
Yeah, couldn't agree. I think that was surmised perfectly there. I think you bang on about and these are things I think that people gloss over a little bit. It is Wales' second city. They have just announced a link with Swansea University that play in Buck Super Rugby. For those of you that are not avid followers of rugby outside of sort of the wider pro game, it's arguably the best university rugby league in the world. All the best players play in that. That of that age. I think University of Bath at the moment, my alma mater and my former team have got 4 or 5 England 20s internationals. A good link with Bath rugby. A number of Wales international 20s internationals have played there. So it's a good standard rugby. That's the sort of link that you want. Obviously,
Aaron Wainwright came out of Buck Super Rugby.
Aaron Wainwright came out of the Bucks. Look at what Hartbury
Don
done.
Brandt came out of Super Rugby.
Look what Hartbury have done for the female and the men's game. Right, fantastic. So these links are perfect, and all of this has been kind of overshadowed as well. The thing that reeks to me, and there seems to be, like, almost to me, because of the lack of transparency, like a bit of an element of corruption to the whole thing. Because what I can't quite put my finger on is, number one, why would Y11 want to buy Cardiff? Right, and I'm not slagging Cardiff off you because of because Cardiff's a brilliant heritage rugby club, right? There's no doubt about that. In the best rugby city in the world, in my opinion. Outside of Abertleary, obviously. Obviously, but why would you want to buy it from a purely business decision? Right, there's no rugby and money at the moment. No money in rugby, sorry, at the moment. You only got to look at the other leagues as well. It's a massive. You got to sink a hell of a lot of cash in. Look what Red Bull are doing up in Newcastle, for example. Look at the money that Sale have lost and Exeter have lost recently. All of these clubs are losing cash. So why would you want to Why would you want to burden yourself with that level of debt? They must get something out of it. There has to be something in it for them, but I can't quite work out what it is yet, unless Harley knows different to me from a Cardiff standpoint. And my understanding is that Collier Keywords threatened to resign if the deal didn't go through.
He threatened us all with a good time there, didn't he?
He did, yeah. I thought he was off.
I think we should call him out on it personally.
That absolutely stinks to me. It's blackmail, isn't it? Either I'm off. Or you sign this deal. Now, my understanding is, and again, I'm not a Cardiff expert yet. Well, technically, I'm not an expert on anything. I'm sure many people think, but from my understanding is the Hollywood bid financially was very good in terms of what Cardiff. I loved the fact that they were looking to produce some sort of show, like a Wrexham style thing. I think that's what rugby needs in it at the moment. And my understanding was that it was led by Cardiff people. Go on, Harley, correct me if I'm wrong. But to me, from the outside looking in, that just looks as though it was the best deal for Cardiff would be to have the Hollywood people involved.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't profess to know any major details. This is all sort of the general stuff that's happening. But the idea was that they were going to make this show, and the idea was the show then was going to be your money generator.
Brilliant. And why wouldn't it be?
And they're using the ownership of Cardiff to basically grant themselves permanent access whenever they want to. And I think you're going to get notable Cardiff figures in. It's going to be more more like Ted Lasso footballers wise, where it's a fictional thing set in there as opposed to a welcome to Wrexham. It makes me a bit more fictional on that, which sounds really interesting. I mean, Mark, hopefully they won't mind me sharing some of this, but we had a meeting to discuss all these proposals on Thursday. Martin Ryan came in just at the start, and he basically just the thing that I noticed about it around Penarthia, he's a local man. He was at the he was still waiting to the game on the weekends, and he has been there or thereabouts pretty much the whole time. And he apologised that the other people, because of time zones, they were all based in America, couldn't quite make it. But he wanted to thank Cardiff fans for it. And you can see he's genuinely gutted and slightly frustrated. But moving on to that meeting, I mean, one of the key themes throughout the whole thing, the big thing that we've been discussing is how can we trust Y11? How can any supporter or even the players, the ground staff, how can you support them? And pretty much from the day they took over the Ospreys, they've been linked with merging them. There's the link to the Cheetahs, there's links to Ealing, there was Cardiff another time before, and you're just looking at it and just going, and like Richard Collie-Keyword said in the select committee, go back to that, we're going to have 3 brand new teams. We're going to have 3 brand new teams. And then Abby Tierney came out and said, oh no, we're definitely going to keep Cardiff, and it's going to be Cardiff in the name, it's going to be Cardiff colours, and you get to play at camp. And the problem is based on everything else they said, that to me says that we're now going to be called the South Wales Ospreys, and we're going to play in pink and magenta. And we're going to be based in Bog in the middle of Leckwith. So I just don't know where we can trust at all. And that's the big thing. I mean, the Central Podcast Boys put out a tweet and they said, describe in a few words how you feel with this deal. And the only thing I can say is dirty. Because
I agree.
I always wanted Cardiff to survive, but I didn't want it to survive because another team got completely shafted.
I think,
yeah.
I think for me, and obviously I say this as a Scarlets fan, so there is absolutely no love lost between Scarlets fans and Ospreys fans. I think that's fair to say, and I think there's been a lot of high emotion and mudslinging over the last week between everybody. You've had Cardiff fans kicking off, you've had Ospreys fans kicking off, you've had Scarlets fans kicking off, and my favourite has been the Dragons fans kicking off. I don't know why, it's just been very entertaining when the 2 or 3 have popped up. But having said all of that, I feel like that's exactly what the WRU want. When they came out and said, this is the process and this is what it's going to be, what they actually said was, if an agreement can't be made, we'll go to a tender process. And I think essentially what they wanted was for the owners of the regions, the 3 that had ownership, but wasn't Cardiff, to figure out who was going to buy Cardiff. I think that's really what they wanted, so that they could get out scot-free, them kind of get away with not having to make a big decision and the decision be made for them. And in the process, that means that the fans will turn on themselves and turn on each other. And I think actually, if we say we want 4 and all 4 regions of fans aren't turning against each other and for once actually stand together, I think it is going to make a bigger difference than us flinging shit at each other on Twitter.
I think that's a hugely valid point, and an important point, that unity is everything now. I think, and I'll add to that again, and I'll ramp it up. And my call to any rugby fan in Wales, especially if you're a proper fan of the pro game, especially, is if your team is not at home and you can't go to watch your team, go and support another region. Go to the Brewery, go to Rodney, go to Cardiff Arms Park, go to Park of Scarlets, whichever one you need to go to. Go and support another region if they're playing a non-Welsh team, because we need you now. It'll show unity. Fly the flags, fly your colours, do whatever it is you got to do. But we need to be all in it together, because let's not forget, again, just skip back a few minutes, whereby Collier-Key would have stated that there is cash for 4 teams, apparently. It's on record. Again, I stand to be correct on that. So there is money there, whichever way you want to look at the funding model. There is, in theory, money there, even though Wales Online and Steph Thomas, etc., the one reason for dropping down to 3 was because there was no cash. Well, we don't know that there's no cash because A, the lack of transparency, and B, Collier Keywood has come out and said that there is. So therefore, I can't see any reason why we cannot stay at 4 teams, ride out the sort of trough that we're in at the moment in terms of player and squad depth, and really, really, really invest in our player pathway on both sides of the house, men's and the women's game. Invest in that pathway because, you know, I think the elephant in the room here as well is even when we were supporting on a one-to-one basis with the likes of Alan Carter, etc., supporting your Warbies and Halfpennies, etc., that wouldn't cost him millions and millions of pounds a year, was it?
No.
To go and do that.
No.
It wasn't. We didn't have like all these people turning up at like an NFL style centre and, you know, living, eating and drinking. You know, Halfpenny was down kicking on his local rugby club. Biggs was probably down kicking at his local rugby club. This is what they were all doing. It just needs that proper investment in the pathway. It's not going to cost us 10 million quid to put that right.
No.
So yeah, unity now, and I think we need to keep calling out all the nonsense. I think it's important that we remember there is an EGM due.
Mm-hmm.
What that's going to look like, I don't know. But again, I'm part of the club game in Wales. Love rugby. Again, my plea to every committee member or club representative going is to do, and when you're going is to do the right thing. Ask tough questions. If we don't get the answers we're looking for, then people need to be replaced.
100%. 100%.
We finish on a slight positive before we move on.
But ladies win on the weekend?
No, I was going to say it was actually positives about Osprey related news.
Go for it.
Was that I know that the Ospreys wheelchair rugby team came out and said they're actually a completely separate company, and whatever happens, they'll be staying. So,
as they have had the Ospreys in the community,
yes,
who, from my experience working down there, do absolutely fantastic work. I'm not having to go at the Dragons or Cardiff or Scarlets. I'm sure they do absolutely similar stuff, but they are a separate unit to the club. They're funded differently. They're a charity and so on, and they do wonderful work across Australia.
Yeah, so I think it's really good that both of them have we know that whatever happens, they're safe, because both aspects of those make huge differences to the community and the people, and especially I know more so from the wheelchair rugby side, but they're one of the most important kind of teams in Britain, so, and the biggest team in Wales, so it's really important that they're able to keep going.
Yeah, and on that happy note, if you are enjoying us and really love the company this misery is providing you, why don't you give us a like, subscribe, tell your friends so they can be miserable with us. If not, if you want to listen to a bit more, particularly if you want to listen a bit more in depth in these games, why don't you check out our regional pods? So the Dragons Lair is already out. Scarlet, the Saucepans and Sidestep, Scarlet Fan Pod is recording as we speak. Cardiff's going to be out on Wednesday, as will be Ely, if not on Thursday. And if you want to listen to the similar sort of chat, but in the beautiful tongue of Welsh, then Podler Cymru is also on this channel.
Thursday night.
On Thursday night. If you want to listen to stuff about the URC as a whole, or American rugby, women's rugby, basically anything that's outside of Wales, check out our sister channel, Global Game 9. They're trying to make a big push for 1,500 subscribers. So if you can subscribe to here instead and push our numbers ahead, that would really make Catboy, you friend of the pod, you really grumble with me. So I please do. And moving on, so amongst all the news of all the other, well, let's be honest, I want to say noise, but some incredibly serious topics. Wales squad was released. So Steve Tandy announced a 38-man squad. A couple of big highlights to me. I'm going to share the screen. In the meantime, we'll go with Patty. Do you want to go through some of your initial thoughts? I'll get the screen shared.
I mean, obviously, it's been pretty big news that the Scarlets were, when the squad was released, were bottom of the table, yet had, I believe, the most representatives, which is a bit odd. But I mean, apart from like one or two people, I think the personnel that was selected does make sense to me. Um, I mean, from a Scarlet's point of view, I'm somewhat buzzing and somewhat a bit peeved because it means that they'll probably all get injured and they won't come back.
I think that's the big problem for everyone. So, Dan, only two dragons. I think you alluded to earlier on the pods. Not what you were hoping for. Do you want to talk us through? So, who you think was unlucky to get out of it? Maybe, if you're going to put someone in, let's go for the rule of don't pick someone unless you're willing to drop someone.
Yeah, no problem at all. First of all, congratulations to Ben Carter and Aaron Wainwright. Probably nailed on, weren't they? In all fairness. And I just hope that Ben Carter gets a start because I think he's one of the form locks in Wales at the moment. And personally, I'd start him, but we can have that conversation as we sort of go on. So yeah, in terms of the wider additions, I thought that Brodie was hard done by. There's no doubt about it. The Dragons got loads of depth at hooker, albeit Elliot D is out at the minute, and as such, I was surprised to see Ryan Elias in there.
I agree with you, Dan.
Personally, I'd have taken Elias out and stuck Brodie in, but I think he deserves a spot at least on parity with Belcher as well. But that's just my opinion. I think Harry Keddy's been performing well. He's tough. He's abrasive. He gives a lot to go forward. He spends a lot of time in the tackle. I think that he's been playing well. I think he'd do a better job than Mr. Plumtree at the moment. The walking yellow card. So I'd happily swap him out. Shea Hope, arguably been the form scrum half in Wales at the moment. Been playing his socks off. I know he picked up an injury, so we'd be swapping him out for what we're looking at here. Maybe Ruben Morgan-Williams. Thomas Williams is going to start all day, no doubt about it. Fantastic form. Thomas is arguably one of the form nines in the world at the minute. I genuinely think that Rio's been hard done by. On form, I think Rio deserves a spot in there. Again, take your pick who you would take the slot of. I suppose Gabriel Hamer-Webb would be the obvious choice because that's a bit of a left-wing decision. I don't think anybody really saw that come in.
He's on the right wing.
What did you say?
You said it's a left-wing decision. He's a right-wing.
He's right-wing, yeah. And I also think that Angus has been playing well. Now, Angus is the wrong side of 30 probably for an international call-up, although Tandy has stated that that he did ring him and explain why he wasn't included, so that shows what his form has been like. And when you look at the backs that have been selected, we are a little bit bereft of genuine fullbacks, of which Angus is one. He's also a ball player, can stand in at first receiver, kicks the ball miles. His place kicking's getting better and better and better. And he's got to turn a pace when he wants to and can pick a gap, and he's as tough as teak in defence as well. So those were my Dragons, sort of ones that I felt deserved a bit of a shot. They are not the only ones that I felt deserved a go in the squad. I think there was a couple from other clubs that have missed out. I don't know whether you want me to mention those now, Harley, or not.
I think we'll all do our own individual patches. Then we'll push into any others. I think it's the best way to do that.
Those 3 or 4 would be the ones for me that I would have liked to have seen had a shot.
So Nick, Ospreys perspective, Gareth Thomas I think is a pretty obvious to go in, but I think one name that I think a lot of people were expecting to see was Rhys Davies. And especially considering how light we are on out and out lock. So how do you feel selection's gone for from the Ospreys perspective.
Yeah, it was a little bit strange, especially I've heard that Freddie Thomas is not going to be available for the first two games.
Yeah.
So basically, you've got three second rows. So you've got two on the bench, two played and one on the bench. And Adam Beard hasn't played for some time. I think he went off quite early in one game with a shoulder injury.
Even living.
So I assume, therefore, it's going to be Carter and Dav who are going to start against England because they're the ones who are fit and they got a hope. But for me, Adam Beard strengths. I know we can argue about his strengths or weaknesses. He's a starter. He's not a person who's going to come on and make a difference in the game.
But does he
So
actually
Does he
do
make a
anything when he
difference?
starts?
well, I can argue about that, and you can have your opinion about that. I think he's a very strong player doing the basics, but you can have your own opinion about that. But my point is more that he's not an impact player.
Agreed.
Because
Agreed.
but going to wider decisions, we've got who's your number 8? Falatau's injured, who one assumes if he was still fit.
You assume it's Wainwright with Cracknell probably the back initially.
So I guess then you ask, why haven't we got another number 8 option? Plumsy can do a job, but he's a walking yellow card. Then you've
Cracknell
also
plays 8 predominantly at Leicester.
Yeah, okay, so you've got Cracknell.
So we've
But
got
I
there.
suppose from an Osprey point of view is we've got two players who can play number 8.
Yeah.
Maybe Morgan Morse as a young impact player, or Ross Moriarty would add some grunt and some experience to that. So from an Osprey point of view, I guess I would question why at least one of those two had not been included.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, Nick. I'm just sort of goes with you because you're probably looking at your 8 options being Wainwright and Cracknell.
Oh, Wainwright is a Thomas Williams now, isn't he? He's absolutely nailed on to start, and no one can argue about that.
I think you've got your hierarchy, which is you're probably looking at Wainwright is out in 8. Cracknell's probably going to
do a job. And I've got no problem.
Both of them can do a job. Wainwright can do a job.
Yeah.
No, Plumtree can do a job. I think that's it. McLeod as well. He's played quite a bit at 8. So I think we've got lots of very versatile back rows. I feel like we're almost missing out on the specialists there.
But doing a job in URC is very different to a job in international rugby.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring this up when we go into outside of Wales players with the selection as well. But I think from Cardiff perspective, Andrati, yeah, expected. Belch, I'm surprised. I thought they probably might have gone for Lloyd more for that impact. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think I agree with that. I think Brody Cockridge being there, I think he's on far better form, even if he has been injured for a while. Yeah, Alex Mann, I think, has been playing really well. Both of them, I think he's just been on such good form since he's come back from injury. I think he's been quite unlucky that a lot of the injuries lately have come with Wales squads who've missed out. I don't think anyone really missed Josh Adams. I think you've got Manchidi, he's missing out, but I feel like when Costello was fit again, it was to be him or Jared Evans dropping out. He's picked the slightly younger of the two, and Jared's been quite well off the bench during the autumn. On that, Ben Thomas again, I feel like he's sort of nailed on. I think he's going to be quite key for how Wales want to attack, whether you think he's the right option or not. Neville, I feel like actually if you bring Angus O'Brien in at 15, then you've got the capacity to have a bigger 12. But you still got that dual play Bickett. But other than that, I don't really think there's too many people we can complain about not going in. I think, we showed in the autumn that Alan Lawrence isn't that high at the pecking order, as brilliant as he has been at URC. And then I think plenty of ex-Cardiff pathway players, which makes me happy. The only real name I'd like to see in a pretty still injured is Teddy. Yeah, I think that's the only one who I think might have come in realistically. Domachowski hasn't really been playing particularly well. So yeah, I think that's from Cardiff. Patty, do you want to do anything else in the Scots perspective? Are you happy with what you said while we were getting the screen share up?
I mean, yeah, I've already said I probably wouldn't have picked Ryan Elias. I'm not his biggest fan. I don't, he plays for the Scarlets, but why is he playing for Wales? But we've got so many players in there, I can't really complain. Joe Hawkins. Like even if you were like, oh, you have to pick two centres from the Scarlets, he wouldn't be in those two for me. So it's just a bit of an odd
And
one.
I think this is going back to Dan's thing of like, this is Candy selection and what they're picking,
Yeah.
and what sort of players they're looking for a profile on there. So I mean, when we start going into the, particularly with the England-based players, and I think with Gabe Haverweb being quite more of a physical, someone who's worked with Jockey before, and a lot of people are saying that's basically the only reason he's in. But he is incredible, aerially he's very good, he's very physical, and if you look at the wingers, they all, only really Blair Murray, who's one of the more diminutive. A lot of them are actually quite big and a bit more physical.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean Ellis Mee's just a bit more gangly than he is physical, but
He's still quite
they've
young
gone
though.
for.
He's got time to pack it on.
It's not a criticism. This is just sort of what I'm looking at the trend, and Josh Adams is a very technical, physical winger. Also brings a lot of experience from that point. It's going to be a very limited back three. Bruce Rees-Zanuck, he's a big guy, even the physicality isn't the main thing in the game. More speed. Tom Rogers again, really very competent, very physical, and I think part of that is to compensate for Blair Murray at 15.
Mm.
I think having these bigger guys because thing. I don't know why I'm talking so much about back three because I'm very much not a back three player, but that's where I feel like they go for me. One name I see missed out a lot. I don't know how we're going to see is Tommy Rattel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Now,
but I think
but problem for me is for a similar reason we're criticising Beard. I think Raphael misses out because I feel like he's incredibly good at turnover and he's probably one of the best turnover sevens in the game. But if we're not giving him the opportunity, so if you look at a lot of his games for Wales, he doesn't really get to do much because he's too busy tackling. And then with the ball, he doesn't really carry. And, if we're going to have a go at Beard not carrying the ball, we have to be fair and say that, you're not doing it as well, Raphael. Whereas all the people who can play seven there, they are a bit more physical and a bit more of a natural ball carrier. James Botham does a lot of up the middle carries. Cracknell's, a bit more carrying the players is a bit, pretty good with the ball. I know Dan had some issues with him over the summer, but then first test he didn't like it, and then second test he put all this up to. So I think you've got to. I think that's where Raphael's been sort of falling down the pecking order there. Because I feel like because of Jack Morgan, we put in our shape our seven is doing a lot of carrying, and if Raphael isn't really fitting into that, I think that's been got there. I don't know what you gentlemen think. I'm happy.
I mean, for me, I think it probably did come down to like McLeod and Reffel probably you're going to pick one or the other. You probably aren't going to pick both in your squad. And I think for me, it makes more sense to pick McLeod. And I'm not just saying that as a Scarlets fan. I think it makes more sense. I think he does more round the park. I think Reffel, as you say, he is very defence minded. He's either going for a turnover or he's going for a tackle. And he doesn't really go
McLeod's a better player.
Yeah, and I do just think McLeod's better. And I think especially at the moment, his form is incredible. The game that he had the other day was insane. So yeah, for me it makes sense. And I really hope that he gets a shot in the Six Nations.
I do as well. Obviously, I'm a Harry Deves fan, but and Harry offers similar attributes to McLeod, but is not quite there. But if there's any player who's been lucky with injuries over the years and is an absolutely outstanding player, it's Josh McLeod.
And I also think as well, like just as like a leadership option, obviously he's got that background, and I think with the current situation as well, I think his background is helpful.
For me, I sort of nail my cards to the mast again here in that I'm really underwhelmed with the squad as a whole. I think that, and look, I'm not being paid the £500,000 to select it that Tandy is. And again, right, whatever team they put out and they select, I'll be supporting 100%. I hope they go and win every single game. I really do. But I just think that, I'm a proud Welsh rugby man. So I hope they all, and congratulations to every single one of them, because in their own way, I'm sure they've earned a spot. It's just, in my own opinion, there are some that I wouldn't have picked, and there are some that have definitely missed out. I think, okay, we'll start with Adam Beard here. Someone said to me the other day that, he's really good in the scrum and the line out. Well, he's not a tight dead prop. They are the ones that are there to scrimmage. You mentioned like Raffle being, turnover and tackle orientated. Well, that is, that's quite a specialist role, the 7. The second row is, I don't know. Maybe I'm being harsh on Beard, but for me, if he's going to carry once against England, it's not enough. If he's going to play, if he's going to offer himself to carry once in a game, it's not enough. You go and watch what the other pairs of second rows will do in terms of their carrying output, their attacking output, and it'll be way and above that. So it's just he's not aggressive enough for me. He's not mullering people. Effectively, in a ruck, right, you get an opportunity to legally assault someone. That's what you get to do on a rugby field. Adam Beard's not doing that. He's not taking a run up from 5, 6, 7, 8 yards away and smashing someone into next week, making them think twice about putting their head in there again. He's not carrying hard yards when it's really required. Okay, he runs a line out and he pushes hard in the scrum. Well, every second row in the squad can do that. I can have a cap if it's all about pushing hard in the line out and pushing in the scrum and jumping in the line out. Those are like the most basic functions of a second row. You have to offer more.
Just the only thing I'm going to say to offer to that is, and I'm going to sort of contradict myself a little bit here. The best person for doing nothing was Alan Wynne-Jones, in that he would just be awkward and nuisance in rucks and mauls. He didn't always carry the best. He didn't always win the most lineouts, but he was in your face, and he was what I want from a second row. Beard is not that. I do accept that, Dan. But you have to give me somebody who has international experience and who could replace him. Because at the moment, I've not seen enough from Freddie Thomas or Ball or whatever to show me that they're up to international standard.
Yeah, but they're not going to get international experience if blooming
give me a name,
Adam Beard keeps getting...
Ben Carter.
Yeah, Ben Carter, like whoever. The problem is Adam Beard gets on the pitch and doesn't do anything. I said my starters
would be Ben Carter and Dan. I didn't say that. And I did say that if Adam Beard's in the squad, he either starts or doesn't play. So I have no problem when we come to select the team with Ben Carter starting. And if Teddy Williams was fit, I would have no problems with Teddy Williams replacing Adam Beard. But Teddy Williams, unfortunately, is not fit.
In the ruck. This is where, to basically jump on your point there, Nick, this is where I probably would have had Rhys Davis and dropped one of the back row players. Don't know I don't know exactly who I'd drop without going through, but, for me, I feel like we are incredibly light at lot, particularly if you said we're not going to have Freddie Thomas in the first couple of games. You're basically looking at either the 3 other lots playing all of it, or you're looking at Tame Plumtree be covering off the bench, or you could be having, like we had with the autumn, where our starting second row would basically pull in 80 minutes each every week. And we're playing England, which is one of the most physical teams. Scotland, who aren't exactly pushing. I know they're not really, physicality. I don't know if physicality is a big thing, but there's still going to be a physical challenge. And then France in consecutive weeks. That's a challenge. Like to run out that, one second lock here, and that's going to be quite heavy without any of them getting a rest. Again, I'd have loved it to be Teddy. I think Rhys Davis, I'd probably put in more again, because he is a nuisance. He's still a decent line-out forward. And let's be honest now, if you're a forwards coach, surely you can come up with a line-out system that isn't entirely reliant on one player. I feel like, there's something to be said on there.
Yeah, well, on that note, for me, I think you're spot on. The physicality element is in international rugby. I want 8 big gnarly bastards in there. Big, horrible, gain line carrying, gain line stopping. Indeed, people that are just willing to put all on a line for 80 minutes and be horrible. I would have added Ball. To this squad. I think he offers that little bit of grunt, that little bit of horribleness, that nastiness that we're missing. I would have added Moriarty to the squad, Reffel and Morse. And I would have also added Brim Bradley and Williams to the squad as well in the centre, and I would have canned off Hawkins and Hennessy.
Problem with that is you're basically adding yet another 12 into that squad with Bryn Bradley for Hennessy, whereas Hennessy is more of a 13 come wing.
Yeah, but
I
Hawkins
think
is
that's
12,
one of
so you're sacking him off. Get rid of Hawkins.
yeah, no, I agree with that for James Williams, and then you're a bit more like James Williams is a bit more physical playmaker. Like I said, if you're bringing in Bryn Bradley for someone who's only had a few games, for Louis Hennessy, who's another player who's only had 13 games, but you're moving to 13, it looks like we're setting up for Eddie James to be playing 13.
The other one I
And
think has
you're
been harshly
already
done by is Bowen. I'd have put Bowen in the squad as well.
I don't think he's
I
right.
can. I'm sort of leaning towards it.
What? Let me pose you this question: in 15 caps, what has Mason Grady achieved in a Wales shirt?
Oh, don't
He
get started.
did put out the
What?
worst defensive display I've ever seen in my life.
I'm telling you now, in the way that Wales will want to attack, you'll get more output from Bowen, or Bowen's much more dangerous and much more of a try threat than Grady is.
I don't disagree with that, Dan. I'm not Mason Grady's biggest fan. For me, he's just in it because he's big.
Yeah.
He's not great in the air for somebody who's so big. But I would put Rio Dyer ahead of both of them.
Yeah.
I agree with it. I think Bowen still has some work on. He's electric. I love it, and he gives the crowd at captain a stand on. But I feel like he's got another season in the under-20s where he's going to be playing similar team, and they're still going to play similar ways. So he's got time with players who aren't quite as massive to start, to work on getting that vertical jump in the air, because that's where shorter players have to get their aerial game in. Their position has to be even more spot on, and they have to go different. There's no need, like this Six Nations would be horrendous again. There's no need to have him go through that. Let's give him a bit more time to do that, and then when it comes to that autumn, let's unleash him then when he's had a little bit more time.
What? But why wait 6 months? What are you waiting for? Why? Bring him in, have him working with the national team, see what the requirements are of playing international rugby. You never know. In a game like against Italy or against Scotland at home, he may be the game breaker, like Shane Williams often was.
Yeah.
He may.
Just to bring this to a close, I've just checked on AI. Apparently, everybody agreed on the Welsh squad selection last in 1892. There was nobody who disagreed with the 25 selected.
Is that because there was no social media in 1992?
Maybe, Ali.
What's the maximum,
or maybe it was just me coming into existence that's brought that on.
What's the maximum number you can carry in there? Because I've seen.
I don't know that, Dan.
Six Nations, there is none.
Yeah.
There's no maximum squad. It's more about you travelling, and usually you find them breakdowns for away games. The only thing I've seen where there is a limited squad in International World Rugby is the World Cup.
Yeah.
And the women's game is different. In the women's game, there's limits.
So is it?
Yeah, so like WXV, there's a limit. And I believe
I think that's because
Pac
World
4
Rugby
has a limit as well.
Okay.
I think a lot of those World Rugby ones, which are World Rugby owned, they put the limits because they cover travel to. I know for WXV they cover.
I see the point you're going for, Dan. Why put Bowen? Why put Bowen in, not in the squad? And even if he didn't play, he could still throw him into the 20s because they're going to be trained on the same bloody in the Vale anyway, aren't they?
And this is going to be my point, right? So we've mentioned we generally agree on Morse, Moriarty, maybe. We've talked about Williams, Bradley, Bowen, Ball, maybe one or two of the other Dragons boys. So you're looking at maybe 5 to 8 additions to add to that. That's not breaking the bank, is it?
No.
Yeah, but is it going to break the regions when they don't have these people?
Well, release them back then, Hattie.
Yeah.
We've only got a game on Saturday.
Yeah.
I can't remember the rest of us are playing, and one game on the 28th of Feb.
Yeah, agreed. So why not have them in it to have a look at and then make a real informed decision, see on what they like within that environment? Then makes it even more crazy for me, really, that some of these haven't been invited in.
Can I bring attention to one name we haven't mentioned yet? A player making a much loved Lego enthusiast, making his return to the side there. So, Thomas Francis, with the news of him signing for sale, he's been brought back into the squad. Now, I know he's not a big ball. He's not a big ball carrier, but you talk about people who hit rucks hard.
Yeah,
that's something he always did under Gatlin, and he's sure that the scrum. And I think, particularly for Archie Griffin, there's going to be a lot for him to, it gives him yet another name, someone who's been in the international game, been there and done that. Only one thing I like to say about Griffin is he is actually getting a bit more game time now for Bath, so I feel a lot more comfortable with him being in the squad. But yeah, it's just nice to see, that little bit of solidity. My question for you is, do we chuck him in straight away as a starter, or do you have him on the bench and you have either Azarati or Griffin, and then you've got Francis with the safety blanket that if things start going wrong, you can bring him on?
I think you've got to start him. And my reason why is the game will get away from you very quickly if you don't have a solid set piece. So you may bring on someone at 45, 50, 60 minutes, whatever it may be. Or you may bring Francis on at that point rather, but the game could already be gone by then.
Especially going up against Genge, for example.
Yeah, we have to start well. We have to start well.
What we don't want is 3 or 4 penalties, scrum time against us, them kicking into their hour 22, and a launch pad for the English forwards or backs. We've got to hold our own scrum, and if he only lasts to half time, I have no idea what the level of his fitness is. They'll find that out when he turns up at camp. But even if he only does bloody 40 minutes and he has to come off half time, he starts.
Yeah, and he is someone that I would be more than happy for him just to go on a scrimmage. Give me 40 minutes.
Go and do that.
Just go and
push. Just go and do that.
It a few rucks. Don't worry about tie your bootlaces up in between. In between.
Do a Tom Botha.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's why they paid the big bucks. It's for me, it's the hardest position on a rugby field, tight head prop. The hardest position on the field. That when you're head sandwiched between a loose head and a hooker, that's a unique position to be in. That is, I can tell you that much now.
I suppose then the last point is we basically talked about lack of out-and-out 15s. So one of the things Tandy did go on about was Lutri Zammit at 15 because he's been playing there for Bristol. I don't know if anyone else here has been watching Zammit play 15 for Bristol.
Yeah, well, this is like Bristol for me on the whole are a little bit of a. There's a lot of false hope with Bristol because you see them and they put in these brilliant wins. The way they play rugby is fantastically entertaining, isn't it? Right, and it suits Louis Rees-Zammit down to the ground. However, I can't see that style of rugby winning anything. When it comes to the nitty-gritty, they may make a final, they may get to a semi-final, but they're just going to be ground down, and people play what is effectively test match rugby, win collisions on the gain line, scrum line out set piece, kick you to oblivion, and play to a structure, and Bristol won't be able to cope with it, because Bristol just want to play like it's under 12s.
I have to be... Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, I have to be honest, the idea of putting Louis Rees-Zammit at 15... and I don't say this as an insult to the player that I'm about to compare him to, but it reminds me a lot of the people that insist on putting Jazz Joyce at 15 because they think, oh, well, they're an excellent winger. They're so quick that obviously they'll be good at 15. And it just doesn't work, especially at international level. They both play that, like Jazz Joyce has played 15 for Bears and it looks fine, but it can't, well, it doesn't really work. It sort of works in the Bears system, but it just doesn't work at international level. I think Louis Rees-Zammit's the same. He's played 15 for Wales before. Even when he plays on the wing for Wales, his defence is poor, and we know that. So why would you want to stick him at 15?
I think from what they're hoping for maybe is that he's able to launch counter-attacks. The one thing, I think you'd be okay.
Involved in catching the ball.
You are?
That would involve him having to catch the ball from the kick.
Well, it would.
This is the point. I find his aerial... Yeah. He was dropping balls. I know the weather wasn't great on the weekend, but
it's not going to be great next weekend.
Yeah,
this is where I think, and I feel like in Bears, there's an awful lot of extra cover that you don't normally see with 15, and I think you've got to work quite hard to cover it. I mean, saying that you've got to do that with Blair Murray anyway to protect him under the high ball. You've got to cover with And I think that's why we've gone for such big wingers. I don't think, he's clearly learning how to play fullback at Bristol. I don't think international rugby is where you learn how to play a position. It's the same thing we say about Mason Grady when Mason Grady was at 13. Well, actually, basically, anytime we push a winger into 13, I think it'd be one thing if Liam Williams was sitting firing and you chucked him in the 15, that would be great right now. But yeah, I'll be honest, our back three is kind of a worry for me.
It's just getting the combination right.
I'd agree. I think you need someone at international rugby who's a little bit, and let's not forget, mind his kicking game. You need to have someone that can kick a ball at fullback because it's not a case of catch it and run. There's going to be times where we're playing ping pong, and this is why I brought up Angus because he's solid under the high ball and he can kick it miles. You've also got Winnett at Cardiff who's got better under the high ball. Beetham can play under the high ball. So I don't know. Let's wait and see. But I suppose we got to segue in at some point to what happened with the regions on the weekend. But for me, I'm underwhelmed with the squad, and unfortunately, I think it's going to be a dogfight for last with Italy.
Yeah. We'll do a proper preview next week. We'll probably try and select a team. Just one bit to note, just in case listeners have missed it. Premier Sports will instead of it being a split between ITV and BBC properly now, it's going to be ITV get 2 games a week, Premier Sports gets 1. So, from one perspective, the ones you need to worry about having a Premier Sports subscription for are all 3 home games. So against France, Scotland, and Scotland, France, and the other directly played, and Italy. Just if you are interested in what the other 2 games are, it is Italy, Scotland in the first round, and then Scotland, France in round 4.
As far as I understand, all games are on S4C.
There you go. I was about to say I don't know about the S4C coverage, so but thank you for that one, Nick. Right, so I'll start with that. Right, and so we'll move on to the weekend. So if people just very quickly cover your game, and then we'll preview the game next week. So Hattie, we'll do our games first, and then we'll do Dan and Nick, because then we can go into previewing the derby if that's all right.
Yeah, great.
So Hattie, very exciting last minute win in Ulster against Ulster Regan.
I know. Well, so if you listen to the commentary and you didn't actually look at the scoreline, you would assume that we were dog shit the entire game, that we were behind the entire game, and that our win was completely out of the blue. But actually, I think it was a very even game between 2 equals, and I think it was a deserved win on our part. I know a lot of Ulster fans were complaining about the head contact at the end and why did it get called back, but foul play is foul play. It's always going to get called back. So I was, is what it is. A couple of things. Costello's pass for the final try. Literally one of the best things I've seen in a really long time. I think Mee had an absolutely incredible game, and then to tie it off with his excellent line through the gap and a little handoff, it was beautiful. We made Ulster work for their 3rd try, which was really good to see. I think our defence has been really, really poor, but we really, really made them work for it. Yes, they did eventually score, but it took them the best part of 20 minutes, if not more, to go for that. So that was great. Still, restarts. Don't know what's going on there, but they're still bad. But overall, I was really, really happy with the game. I maybe think that I shouldn't watch games live, because if I don't watch them live, we tend to win.
You've said it now, stay away.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be doing a watch along for the Six Nations now then?
I don't know, because then Wales be losing every week.
I think they'd be doing that regardless.
Yeah, they could be doing that anyway.
Anyway, so moving on. So so next up you've got Benetton, so the team that Cardiff beat. So I said because we're swapping opposition this week. So how do you think that's going to go after a narrow loss at the capital?
I don't know. It concerns me that it very much is looking like we're starting a child at 10.
Well, he's quality. This Carwyn Leggett-Jones you're on about.
Yeah.
And I hope it works out for him because I'm telling you now, I've seen this boy in the flesh a couple of times. He's mustard. I know it's a senior rugby, and maybe the conveyor belt of Welsh tens has been put on halt for a couple of seasons. But if this lad reaches his potential, he's superstar.
So, but then I look at it and I'm like, well, Benetton are basically without most of their main squad because they're with Italy. So I don't know.
And he is only 18, mind I think.
He
proper
literally
pup, yeah.
turned 18 in like November, December.
Yeah, he could still be playing youth rugby.
He is literally still in school. He had to skip school to train for the Northampton game. So
I hope his parents had a letter from the council saying, why have you skipped school?
yeah, I wonder if his mum's had to write him a permission slip.
If I want to take my
To
kids
go
on
out
holiday
to
out to
Italy.
school, I get punished. But
Quite right
that's a whole
too.
different
Quite
point.
right too.
That's a whole different point.
So yeah, I'm a bit nervous about that. But from what I've heard, it was quite well planned in that the team knew who was playing the last game and who's playing the next game. So yeah, I'm excited to see the team sheet, and it's obviously going to be very heavily rotated. But then the Benetton squad will be heavily rotated. So it could go either way, I think.
The thing for me, just to jump in on the end of that, is don't judge Carwyn Leggett-Jones what he does defensively in this game. You know, he's a kid he's a boy playing a man's game effectively. That's a hell of a step up. But give him some front football and watch the way he controls the game because the lad can play. He really can play. So I really hope it goes well for him and he has a barnstormer.
Oh yeah, I hope he had. I'm not putting negativity into the universe. It just does scare me. We've got either an SRC player who has joined the squad today or a child.
Yeah, I bet he's scared as well. He's going to be shitting himself when those big number sixes are running down his channel next week.
I'm sure he'll take it like a champ. Anyway, so that's Benton Scarlets. That'll be on S4C at 7:45 on Friday night. From Cardiff perspective, we beat Benetton in what was an incredibly scrappy game. Actually, it was actually quite nervy, mostly because of how Benetton games have gone for us in the last few seasons. All been very close, but actually looking at it with the weather and everything, pretty much always in control. We lost it for about 30 minutes in the second half, whereas basically as soon as Super Prop Reece Barrett kick went off, that was it. Then we were really struggling with scrum time. I think Domachowski is still struggling with something. He is not been playing anywhere near as good as he can for this thing. GD kicking points, excellent. Decent enough performance in the goal. Josh McNally made up for a drop right at the start with a fantastic try. I think it was doomed to be jinxed. I think someone pointed out he had a try in his first game for Cardiff and hadn't scored since. But I mean, if ever a game summed up a player, it was that one with Josh McNally. Abrasive in people's faces. If only he was well qualified and didn't have a cap for England, because that is exactly the sort of second row we've been talking about saying we need in Wales. Just all he does is he's good in the line out, he pushes, and because he pushes them. So that was good. As I said, Reece Barrett had another fantastic game. No 50-22, but you've got to at least back something to do. Adjusting to Ewan Stevens go off so early. Had some horrific luck with injuries, and there's got the theory of you get any injury and then you get a calf injury not long afterwards. But otherwise, it's just nice to see that Cardiff are still going with a scrappy win. Moving on to go away to Ulster, hopefully play Bernard Cock, and we keep our streak of Cock never beating Cardiff. I said they're going to be out with a few players away with the Island 15 and the main squad, but they're still going to have likes of Ian Henderson, who's not been selected for the first time in a long while. That's going to be a lot of matching experience. They're still going to have Angus Bell, and I think they're going to be looking for revenge after, frankly, really struggling against us in the Challenge Cup. So I think going over to their patch will be a different thing. It's always hard out in Belfast. I think that game's only on Premier Sports because in the wisdom of the URC, timed us at 7:45 on Saturday, along with the Ospreys Dragons derby, which is always great when you see that schedule where you are seeing schedule both two Wales games in the same time. So I'll move on. Who wants to go first? Now lost to Munster or draw to at home to the Lions?
I'll kick off first. I think. Okay. It was a really difficult night, and it wasn't just the weather. I think for the players, coaches, fans, it was a stormy night. It probably ended up probably the worst week in Ospreys history. I thought the putting on the torches after lemons, as you've alluded to already, Harley, was quite poignant and a dignified moment. And thank you to the Cardiff fans who did the same the following night. Shout out to people like Grant Burney, we've already spoken about, and Annette and so on, who are very prominent in the Osprey Supporters Club. I think the way they're leading our response to this current situation is very dignified, and I fully support everything they're doing. I really don't remember much about the game, and I think I put on this WhatsApp chat amongst us. I wasn't looking forward to the game. It was more about turning up for me, traveling 3.5 hours to be there. I think going to the actual game, if you like, I think fair play to the Lions, who were playing conditions which were totally different to anything they've ever experienced in Johannesburg. I think the second try they scored just before half time was key, because had the Ospreys gone in with a 10-11 point lead at half time, they might have seen it out. The Ospreys were really brave in the second half, playing into what then turned into a gale, was quite positive in this respect to the Ospreys as a team. And they eventually came out with a draw. I don't think you'd be pretty hard faced to say that given the week the Ospreys had, they didn't deserve a draw. And I say, there were things within the Ospreys performance I was disappointed in. There were things in the Ospreys performance which were good. But I think overall, in the bigger picture, getting 3 points out of the game and scoring 4 tries was pretty positive. Moving on to Saturday, and welcome the Dragons to the brewery, a Welsh derby, and I know a couple of the Ospreys, the Dragons Lair guys are coming down, so I'm sure they're looking forward to their cans of beer in the Riverside Tavern, which if you haven't been there, you need to be experienced. But it's really hard to call. I would normally be quite confident. No disrespect to the Dragons, but they are the form team in Wales. But in normal times, I would be expecting to beat the Dragons at home. But I'm not as confident. But I will later on have to give a prediction, and I'm quite happy to do that. But it's over to you, Dan. What do you feel about Saturday?
Yes, I suppose that segues on to Saturday, and I'll work in reverse if you like. If that's all right, Harley, for you.
Your time.
Lovely. I think. Am I right in saying you're going to be without the international contingent for this weekend?
We've got no 9, as far as I understand it.
Yeah.
We have got no 9. Keelan's playing 9.
There you go. So, whilst this is the way I would look at it, I think the Osprey squad depth overall is better than the Dragons when you go through it, and I think that's been clear throughout the season based on wider Dragons results. If we go out and put a team out that was similar to the last couple of weekends, throw in maybe a Seb Davis for a Ben Carter and Keddy to 8, Shane Lewis-Hughes to 6, for example, then I think that we stand a good chance. I think Nick is right. We're playing some good stuff at the moment, but we haven't won away from home for since Adam was a boy. So there's no reason why we can't maybe go and break that duck this weekend, because I think even though the Ospreys got a wider squad, they are, like you said, without a 9 and without the was a 7 in the front frontline boys. Nevertheless, we'll still have the likes of Moriarty, etc., playing. And for me, from a Dragons perspective, we have to go fully loaded. I'd go with a 6-2 bench. Go as fully loaded as you can up front, because ultimately you've got to win the forward arm wrestle with the Ospreys to stand a chance, which I think is where Cardiff come unstuck a couple of weeks ago. Got beat up a little bit up front and ended up getting dominated in the end by the Ospreys. So if we can stick in it, I think our outing at Munster shows that we can go and perform away from home. So yeah, which way is it going to go? I don't quite know yet. I'll make a decision when you ask me for my prediction, but I think it'll be a fairly evenly contested fixture. It always is. The Ospreys are at home at the Brewery, which would be a good leveler for them, I suppose. I think that's a good home to have. I think the Brewery is a tough place to go for away support, but there's no reason why the Dragons can't do it if the Tombola doesn't come out. If we rotate and he's adamant on rotating, then the Ospreys will win. It's as simple as that for me. The equation is as simple as that. As for this past weekend, Dragons travelled out to Munster and put in a fairly sterling performance. In fairness to them, losing 22-20 to a penalty kick on the 76th minute, I believe, if my memory is right. It was, to coin a phrase, wetter than an otter's pocket out in Munster. I've never seen an all-weather surface look so wet in my life. And it was a little bit of a game of two halves, really. Dragons played with the weather conditions in the first period. Probably didn't quite make the most of that, especially with having a try disallowed, which, for what it's worth, I thought that was a harsh way to rule a try out. For me, referee has to call tackle complete, because how does Beddle know that his knee's on the floor? He's not looking anywhere near him. So that comes down to the officiating for me. But the positives were we were in the game. Tinas to be a brilliant catch, kick and catch. It wasn't a chip and chase because he kicked it for absolute miles in the wind. It was definitely a kick and a catch. For David Richards, showing again that he's most definitely a winger. But on the whole, I thought the Dragons were good value for a bonus point. And if they'd have won, would have been good value for the victory, really, as well. Harry Beddle was outstanding, made 28 tackles, my understanding. From a quick look at the stats, I thought Angus did well again at fullback. Defence, especially the goal line defence, was outstanding from the Dragons. Really made Munster earn every try. Last season we lost by 40 out in, and it would have been a bonus point by half time for Munster, but the Dragons led 13-7 at half time. Probably should have been 23. Was it 13-7 or 13-8 we led at half time? 13-3 maybe. Whatever it was we were leading, but there was a 14-point swing effectively, whereby Shea Hope had that try ruled out, harshly so, in my opinion, only for Munster to go and score up the other end. So it was a 14-point swing there. Brilliant performance. If we can go and perform like that down at the Brewery Field on Saturday, it's going to be a right ding-dong. And it should be, hopefully, more than anything else, an excellent game of rugby where everyone enjoys watching and can see what Welsh Rugby can do. An honourable mention to the front row union. Martinez, I thought, was brilliant defensively, scrummed okay. But for me, Rob Hunt, easily our signing of the season.
Waste of money.
Oh, absolute waste. Yeah, exactly. What a waste of money. But he comes in, solidifies the scrum for us. He carries, he puts his tackles about. Fantastic signing. And another honourable mention for Levi Douglas as well, who spent the first 40 minutes assaulting people effectively. But again, it go back to what you want from a second row. There's someone to go, throws his body into stuff like there's no tomorrow. And he's now been affectionately named a general down at Rodney Parade on the terrace. So, and good on him as well. But yeah, well done to the Dragons. Brilliant away performance. Good bonus point. And irrespective, really, of what happens for the rest of the season, I know I keep saying this, we have improved. There's genuine improvement from the Dragons, no doubt about it. So, yeah, hopefully we're in for a ding-dong this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to watch that game, that is on our Premier Sports Zola and also S4C. And as I mentioned, that's Saturday at 7:40. So, going to go on some projections now. I'll start with myself. I'm just going to run it down the line on the spreadsheet so I don't have to think too much. So I've gone for the Bennington starts game. I've gone Bennington by 4. And then going for Ospreys by 5. And I'm going for Cardiff to sneak a win by 2 points. I think it's going to be a smash and grab. I feel like our squad without our internationals is slightly better than Ulster without the internationals, but I can't wait to be proving wrong on that one. Right, so Nick, you're next on the spreadsheet, so just very quickly.
Okay, before I start, I've had the worst week of provision of rugby in my life. Am I still leading this league? Because give me some bloody good.
That will be revealed next week when we've wrapped up this block.
You're kicking the man whilst he's down.
Exactly, Hattie. There's no need.
But I can tell you now, none of the positions have changed.
So I'm still on the bottom. Nice.
Well, that in mind, I'm going for Benetton by 10, Ulster by 7, and I think I totally agree with Harley, with you, Dan. It's going to be a very, very tight game, but given we're at home, I think I'm going for Ospreys by 5.
And then next on the list, Dan.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna go Benetton by 6, due to all the changes, purely the fact they're away from home. I think they'll squeak it against the Scarlets, but hopefully a good performance from Leggett Jones. We'll see them take a losing bonus point away. Put my teeth back in there. I think Cardiff are going to come and stuck over at Ulster. They're going pretty well this season, but I think they'll pick up a bonus point again. So Ulster by 5. And I always cop out on this, don't I? Like I said, it wholly depends on selection. If we rotate, we lose. It's a simple, too much. We're going to have to rotate somewhat. But for me, this is an opportunity, especially with the contingent that Ospreys have away, and the current situation that's going on down there, whether it galvanises or not. So I'm going to go Dragons by 5. Yeah, why not?
Last but not least, Hattie.
Do you know what? I'm on a roll. I'm just going to continue to back the boys, even though they disappoint me. So I'm going to say...
I like my mum talking about me and my brother.
Yeah. So I'll say Scarlets by 3, just in case. Although last week I said that they were going to lose by quite a lot, and they won, so I don't know.
You said they were going to win by 2.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember what I say.
For the record, Dan got that one spot on.
Oh,
he gets Scarlets by 5.
Anyway, I'm going to say Cardiff by 3. And then, purely because the Dragons are only missing 2 players and they've got an actual scrum half, I'm going to say Dragons by 6.
What's the first time you've backed us this season, Hattie? I
mean, no, it's not. I've backed you before.
Oh, God. Has it been in the games where we've lost? The kiss of death.
I mean, to be fair, most games you've lost, so I mean, it doesn't matter right now. All right, Dan, that was me. Even on my level, that was mean. Anyway, thank you. Before I end up getting in any more trouble with myself, I just want to say thank you to the panel. Thank you, Hattie. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Dan.
Pleasure. Thank you, Harley.
I don't know what Nick's miming. For those on the YouTube, I'm hoping there's nothing
beer.
Yeah, mention it. Basically, Nick wants to remind you to spoil the surprise of what we're going to reveal next week. But we have a partnership for Six Nations, which we'll go into a bit more detail, but it will involve beer. So we'll all be there with yes, it's free beer. I'm going to tell them all this stuff next week as well. I'm trying to tell you guys. So anyway, thank you, Hattie. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Nick. Thank you all of you for listening and putting up with us. Enjoy rugby. Nostar.
Nostar.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.